How's it going, everybody? Sleegi here with ESPN Esports, and I'm sat down with Torment today, a member of Version1, previously on Rat Enterprises and also Cloud9. And Torment, first of all, just thank you for sitting down with me today.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem. And, just getting straight into things. One of the big things I kind of wanted to ask you coming into this before we get into some of the more recent performances is just to take a step back. And, I wanted to know when Cloud9 exited the team, a team that you had been on for one of the longest standing rosters in Rocket League history, was that something that you and your team saw coming, or was it more of a sudden move that the organization made?
It was definitely a bit sudden. We originally thought we were going to be, staying with Cloud9 for the next season, but they told us, that Squishy, that they were leaving, and Squishy was joining Energy at the same time, and it all came kind of all of a sudden. So it was a bit shocking, I guess. But we had a good amount of time at least to, figure things out before the season started. So it wasn't like too crazy. It was easy to come back from.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine the shock that can be, especially with how long you and your teammates were playing together. And with that, what was the sort of action plan that you guys had when looking for a new teammate, especially again after having played for the amount of time that y'all had together?
Yeah, so we actually wanted to change a bit up of like how we played with Squishy. After he left, obviously. So we were looking for thirds. We were just looking for someone that was solid and rotational that would fit our play style. And we tried out a bunch of different thirds throughout the off season, and then and eventually all that ended up not being what we went with, because AXB just comes out of nowhere, and he gets dropped by Space Station, which was definitely a surprise to all three of us. So that was huge for us, and he was pretty much the perfect fit of what we wanted, like a rotational player that would just make us super solid as like a core.
Yeah, I mean, and it looks like it's been working out with you guys sort of early on here. You made it into the corners of week one of the grid. You qualify in stage one of the regional. So it's been there. And, obviously with you personally seen a lot of success in past events. And, I kind of just wanted to know, what are your sort of expectations for performance in this new format?
Yeah, so the end goal is to just make worlds for sure, and I think we definitely have the capabilities to do that. Getting top 6 in NA now, there's more spots than there was in the previous season, so I think we definitely have a good shot at that. And other than that, just consistently making it to or I guess playoffs, stage 3, and all the regionals, and that should give us a good chance at making worlds and all the international majors as well to make worlds.
Yeah, I mean, with this new format, there's definitely a lot more opportunities, a lot more games to be played. A lot of people have been a lot of hype surrounding this new format, especially with how it allows sort of maybe lesser known teams and players to have a chance at playing at the highest level. And, that's another thing. I was talking to Cassio about it last week, and I want to ask you the same. What are your thoughts on this new format as a whole, kind of coming away from league play and into this just everybody has an opportunity every weekend, essentially?
Yeah, I definitely like the main thing I like is that post COVID-19, we'll have all these at LAN. So that's huge for me. I love that. I always hated having most of the season, being online and just playing in my bedroom. I'd rather like play on a stage, in front of everybody. And I just think the competition is better like that. And also with that, the openness of it is obviously kind of scary as a player that's, I think I had like 8 seasons in the RLCS, and you always felt safe, keeping your spot, and as long as you didn't go to the relegation tournament. But yeah, the openness is scary, but it's pretty fun. Like I think playing all these new teams and all these new faces is interesting, and it makes it so the teams that grind more, get rewarded. You can't just hang on to your spot and sneak into playoffs with like 2 or 3 wins in a season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, speaking with some of the bubble players before this new format, I know a lot of frustration from them came from the difficulty it was in being able to play with these high ranked teams. And now maybe not as much the grid right now with how it's set up, but with all these regionals and then also places like the field. For you and Version1 as a team, what sort of focus are you guys putting respectively on these regional events, on the grid events, on places like the field, and maybe outside tournaments like Astros and others that may be floating around?
Yeah, so the outside tournaments like the field and Astros kind of get hard to do when there's so many tournaments just for the RLCS alone. There's like 2 regionals a month, or like 2 weekends of regionals a month, and then there's 4 grids, and it's just a lot along with scrims. So those outside tournaments, like you might not see as many teams in those. I mean, some still play all of them, but not as many. But the regionals obviously are the biggest part, and the main focus. Doing well in the regionals is how you make it to the international major and eventually worlds. And
Yeah.
the grid is, I mean, the one spot go like the top spot goes to the international major as well. But it's mostly just good practice, like week in, week out, getting tournament experience, and there's a prize pool as well, so that's pretty nice. And it's also just a lot of fun. I think every week so far I've had fun with it. So.
Yeah, it's definitely seemed like there's been a different feel around the grid. I know part of that is how they're handling sort of broadcast, allowing teams to do their own, but it definitely it feels like, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like the teams sort of look like they're trying different things in advance of the weekend regionals in the grid to maybe see what works and what doesn't before getting into the meat that is those weekend round robins, or at least it is for this first split.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that a bit. I think teams are more loose and more open to trying things in the grid because if you lose in regional, that that hurts your season in general. But if you lose in the grid, it doesn't really hurt you as much. Obviously, there's an impact. Like the grid has an impact on the season, but yeah, it's definitely a good testing ground, I guess, and a good way to kind of try new play styles. Try something out on another top team like in a tournament environment.
Yeah, and would you say like that NRG maybe one of the top teams in your opinion in NA, or at least at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, going into the season there, I definitely had them at number one. But now seeing some of the results, probably like number three, maybe. I think G2 and Space Station have been doing a bit better than them right now, but they're still definitely one.
Yeah, and then looking across the pond as well over in the EU, I know everything is sort of set in these regionals, but I imagine you guys are having to kind of take a look at what's going on over there as well to prepare. Are there any teams right now, as far as you're concerned, that are really standing out as sort of the cream of the crop over in the EU region?
Yeah, so I mean, I would always say Vitality, even though they actually didn't end up winning the regional. BDS won the first regional for EU, so EU is kind of all over the place, but I guess BDS since they won the regional, and then maybe Vitality, they're always a threat, especially on the land. When it gets to that point, by the worlds and maybe some of these international majors, they'll definitely be a threat. Um, Other than that, I haven't paid too close of attention, so I guess those would be the main two, though.
Okay, yeah, and I definitely agree that everything sort of changes when you get to that land environment. Like it feels like the whole atmosphere around it changes. But I appreciate your thoughts on everything. A lot of games still yet to be played this week with the grid and the regionals coming up. And before we sort of sign off here, was there anything else that you wanted to add?
Anything else I wanted to add? I don't know. I guess thank you to all the fans that support us, week in and week out. Hopefully, you tune into like our grid streams at Version1 GG and support us throughout the regionals. All throughout the season, and we hope we can make worlds for you guys and get some results.
Yeah, well, I know I'm looking forward to seeing it. There's going to be a lot of good games. Version 1 is going to be involved in a lot of them. But thank you again for sitting down with me. We're going to go ahead and cut this here. But thanks everybody for watching as well until we get on the next one.